You're watching Cover to Cover, our guide to the Sikh and Punjabi books that you need to read. This week we're looking at Soft Target, India's intelligence service and its role in the Air India disaster, a book by Zuhair Kashmeri and Brian McAndrew. Soft Target is a book that concerns twin air bombings that took place in June of 1985, one over the Atlantic Ocean and one on the ground in Japan at an airport. Over 300 people died as a result of the bombings, and when this book was first published by these two investigative journalists in 1989, it was absolutely eye-opening and went against the grain of what most of the mainstream media and the Canadian officials themselves had been saying about the disaster. If we open up and take a look, it does actually say that this is a second edition. And for the most part, the reasoning for that is that the opening has a foreword to the second edition, bringing events up to speed to the point of 2005, when much had actually changed with the criminal cases that had taken place. However, if you actually read through, and you'll find that the rest of the entire book is being printed as it was in 1989. There are 10 chapters that make up Soft Target. So as well as the foreword to the second edition, we have the original preface from 1989. There is also then the index at the back of the book, the 10 chapters as I've said. There are a number of images also around the middle of the book that purport to some of the personalities and incidents that make up the happening that was the Air India bombing. Whilst there are no footnotes or specific references in the book as you'd expect in an academic text, what it does provide is plenty of direct quotations, lots of dates, names and places, lots for you to take away, for any reader to take away and look at further. In this day and age, obviously we can Google quite a lot, but even when it first came out, it provided detail in a space where there wasn't really that much detail. The book doesn't try to be anything other than what you would expect from two reputable journalists, and that is looking at evidence, laying it bare and starting to connect dots. And the conclusions that they lead might not be to everybody's liking, but certainly for the objective reader and for anyone who's seeking truth and justice for the people who died in that particular air bombing, you will read this book and start to wonder why more hasn't been made of what McAndrews and Kashmeri had actually put together in Soft Target back in 1989, let alone in this version reprinted in 2005. The subject matter that this book deals with is incredibly sensitive, but both authors took a great amount of time and care with the words that they use throughout the book, and it is incredibly easy to follow the lines that they have drawn in this book and connecting events that are taking place throughout the 1980s to the happening of the bombing and how it relates to Canada and the way that the investigation following the bombing was handled in that country. It is a captivating read, which might seem a somewhat wrong terminology to use when something of this manner is being covered, but actually the authors present it in that way. Put simply, if you're interested in Sikh current affairs, then Soft Target is an absolute must read. However, I want to go a step further for those of you who are watching this from Canada. I believe that every Sikh in Canada must read this book. You do not have to agree with all of the conclusions that are drawn. You do not have to agree with the sentiments and the analysis presented by the authors, but what it does is provide an alternative viewpoint of looking at an event that has been used to malign Sikhs in Canada and beyond for over 3 decades now. And the way in which this book presents some of that information and looks at the way that the state deals with communities, particularly migrant communities with political sensitivities, is eye-opening. But we want to know what you think, so please leave a comment below and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more Cover to Cover, our guide to the Sikh and Punjabi books that you need to read.